I have shown you how the mythical islands can be applied to the Scandinavian area. Today, I'm going to show you how they actually are applied to the Scandinavian area. So let us begin with a quick recap here. All sources on Scandinavia's status as an island or a peninsula say that it is an island. Not one source names it as a peninsula. Scandinavia, as a word, means Scandin island etymologically, and the area is the most island-dense part of the world, bar none. There's no comparison even. Pliny and Pomponius Mela made place names into separate islands on the Scandinavian peninsula, including Thule, and the Amber Islands are all Scandin Island by different names. And here's a central claim, denying the possibility that the mythical islands apply to the Scandinavian peninsula or area is anachronistic reasoning, which is the island's mechanism of disappearance. Let us begin with Thule. I have talked about Thule before. I've used Eratosthenes' parallel from Meroe to Thule and shown that this parallel fits neatly into the very tip of the Scandinavian peninsula. And this is the only place where it actually works, because then this actually becomes a straight line. No other place in the world becomes a straight line. A meridian. But I made a small mistake there, because in the modern sources, one of the distances is 5,000 stadia, while in Olof Rudbeck's Atlantica it says 600 stadia, and I missed this. In modern sources it says from the Hellespont to Dnieper it is 5,000 stadia, while in Olof Rudbeck's work it says that it is 600 stadia instead. And you would think that it would made me look like this, but actually it made me look a bit more like this actually, because this then became the very key to understanding the whole concept of why the Nordic islands theory even works to begin with, namely how the mythical islands as a system applied to the Scandinavian area. So the 600 is the only one that makes this work. With 5,000 it overshoots by quite large margin. So then when we look at Ogygia, we will actually see the same mix-up. So in modern sources it says that the distance from the continent to the mainland is 5,000 stadia, and in Olof Rudbeck's work it again says 600 stadia instead. And mind you, Olof Rudbeck was not aware of this mix-up. He only read 600, so he didn't make this connection that this 600 figure was significant. He just read 600 here and 600 in Thule as well. He didn't see this connection. I make this connection now. And it is very important that this mix-up happens in two places, because that suggests that this is a system of sorts. It is not just a mistake, or the mistake is because of for some reason. And Ogygia is called Nisos in Homer, and in Plutarch in the Face of the Moon, again Nisos. And we've shown that this word Nisos does not mean island etymologically, but actually nose, cape, promontory. This is important to keep in mind. So it works in Thule. Does it work in Ogygia? It says 5 days sail west of Britain in modern versions. An isle of Ogygia lies in the ocean's arms, distant about 5 days sail westward from Britain. And then it continues after a semicolon. This is important, this semicolon. So let us now look at how the geography would look like if this was actually the case, if it was 5 days sail west of England around here. If you just read what the text actually says, it looks like this. The continent by which the Great Sea is circling environed is distant from Ogygia, about 5,000 stadia. So if it was out here, is there a mainland circling environed by the sea there? I mean, not really. It's really only environed by the sea itself, not by the mainland. It's quite isolated, in fact. And it says that they row there in galleys, the sea there being low and ebb. Does it look like this vast open ocean is low and ebb? Difficult to be passed by great vessels over here because of the mud being brought there by a multitude of rivers coming from the mainland. So did the mainland mud from rivers go all the way out here and make this part difficult to navigate? I don't know, it's not even fucking close to the mainland, so how is that possible? Erase their great bars and shelves that choke up the river, even calls this sea a river, and rendering it hardly navigable. So where are the skerries and shelves making it hardly navigable over here? This is open ocean, this is not. So what is basically being described is more kind of like an archipelago, right? This is not open ocean at all. You can see here that reading it this way, 5-day sail west of England, makes for a severe contradiction. If you just look at the Greek, you can see that it can actually be read instead as 5 days sail from Britain in the west instead, because if you look over here, the westward direction is the last word in the sentence, and before it is a semicolon. This is not an established sign in ancient Greek. This is a notation made by the scriber, so it tells you how to read this text, and it separates this word from the rest of the sentence. It says rather 5 days sail from England, notation, west. So in the west, this is supposed to be read in a different way. And it is actually a perspective change, which I will show you in the next episode when I focus more on Ogygia. And the modern scribers used the semicolon and moved it over here instead, making it the full stop, when this is actually not a full stop. This is the full stop over here, and it is not used in the modern translation. So when you look at it like this instead, that it is 5 days sail from England in the west instead, then you can be in either direction 5 days sail. And if you go over here to the Nisos, meaning the cape or peninsula, over here, and you apply the same text as well again, then you will see that the continent by the Great Sea is circularly environed. Then this Great Sea is environed by the mainland, like this, circularly, like this. And it is distant from Ogygia about 600 stadia instead of 5,000. That is the distance from here to here. Quite exactly, actually, which I will show in the next episode. They row there in galleys, the sea being low and ebb. The sea is certainly low and ebb. Difficult to be passed by great vessels, yes, because of the mud brought thither by a multitude of rivers from here into the sea. Coming from the mainland, discharging themselves into it and raise their great bars and shelves that choke up the river, rendering it hardly navigable. So the great bars and shelves is then of course the archipelago, and this is the most island-filled part of the world by far. Because of this reason, mud being brought here from the mainland. That is why it is so island-filled. So it is quite clear that this is the only applicable place in the world this can be applied to, right? So the 600 instead of 5,000 fits more neatly into Thule, and it fits more neatly into Ogygia as well. Now, I said denying the possibility of the mythical islands being applied to Scandinavia, that is anachronistic reasoning, which is the mechanism of disappearance. So what happened here is that the scribers had either the 5,000 stadia or the 600 stadia, and they thought that the 5,000 stadia fit more neatly because they said it had to be out in the open ocean, because Scandinavia was not even a possibility for them. And they reasoned anachronistically. They didn't reason that the Scandinavian area was actually looked at as an island world itself as well, just as England. That is the mechanism by which the islands disappeared from our understanding. Thank you for this time, and I will talk to you soon.